This is the age of social media and the virtual society helping shape the world. We have Facebook India's Managing Director Ajit Mohan with us today. He will be discussing the role of new tech and online communities in transforming India. Senior journalist Kaveri Bamzai will join the conversation as well.
Shall we get started on the whole idea of digital dividend and what Facebook has been talking about of late of leave no one behind, which is the UN Sustainable Development Goal, and which is of course Mahatma Gandhi's idea. And it's nice to see the world adopting India's ideas, even if it's a bit late. So tell me what it means for Facebook and all your applications.
Sure. Great to be here, Kaveri. Thank you for having me. Um, I think it's important to note, Kaveri, that something big happened in India in the last 5 to 6 years. A very large part of the country came alive in terms of accessing the internet in a very short period of time, right? I think between late 2015 and the end of 2020, we had close to 600 million people who came online with access to affordable internet on the mobile.
You said
That kind of
600 million new people, additional people.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at some of the numbers
Right.
that are reported from Tribe, but largely when you look at the number of people who have access to 4G, and most of the action is on mobile 4G, almost all of that is in the last 5 years.
Right.
So whether that's 550, 600, or 650, that's the range, um, and that kind of a transformation, both the scale and the pace, hasn't happened anywhere else in the world. Not even in China. When you look at the period in which it happened, right? A lot of it happened in 3 years. So, as we think to the future, as we look ahead to the future, I think it's to recognize that everything that is going to come, and you framed it as digital dividend, but fundamentally, all the goodness that will come out of a large part of the country being already connected to the internet, starting to have exposure to digital tools that can have a dramatic impact on their own lives, in the lives of their communities and the world around them. And by the way, more and more people coming online, right? This number is not static.
Yeah.
Every year we are adding tens of millions of people. That context does mean that we are set for an explosion in the emergence of new models, dramatic shift in behavior, and all of that translates fundamentally to how can people leverage this access to the internet and access to new tools to fundamentally reshape their environments, and call it whatever the label is. I think it's an explosive opportunity for India and for all of us.
Right. So how does Facebook intend to help India become Atmanirbhar to, exploit these opportunities for business, for social growth? How does Facebook intend to do that with, not just Facebook, but Instagram, WhatsApp?
Yeah.
How do you intend to do that?
Yeah, I think if you look at that context of what's happening in India, and if you look at the Facebook family of apps, right? Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, the one thing that immediately stands out, Kaveri, is how immersed in the fabric of India we are. Whether it's in the public spaces like Facebook and Instagram, or the private messaging space that is WhatsApp, each one of these apps clearly plays a big role in our daily lives. I'm sure it's true for you. It's true for me, and for a lot of people who are listening to this today. Most of your daily life starts on WhatsApp. It's probably the last thing that you do before you go to bed. There are today creators and businesses who are born on Instagram, and friends and families connect with each other on Facebook. So the starting point of the answer to your question in terms of how do we contribute to aiding this transformation and to making sure that India can actually reap the digital dividend, it's so clearly visible in front of us. Is it starts with the nature of these platforms and how engaged people around the country are with these apps. So that's the starting point. The Once you recognize that, then we think about it in terms of, are we essentially fueling our core mission of helping people not just connect with each other, but finding ways to introduce new tools that allow them to radically transform their lives. And that comes in many forms, Kaveri. One, of course, is connectedness, right? Just making it easier for people to remain connected with each other. That's not just people around your local community or in India, but around the world. And a lot of that came alive in the last 12 months, right?
Yeah.
I think we had a radical experiment. It's not fair to call it an experiment because
The
it
whole
was, in many
world
ways,
was a guinea pig.
yeah, it was a crisis. There was a health crisis. There was a lot of loss, but it also was essentially a period in which a lot of new tools came in that allowed people to engage with each other, to remain connected with each other without being in the same room. And that's, that mission is true even when the world comes back to normal. But I think we played a particular role over the last few months. But it's important for us in terms of making sure that we are making it easier and easier for people who have a shared mission, who love each other, to have that connectedness that crosses physical constraints, right? Not being in the same space. I think the second way in which we can really do this is in terms of enabling the agenda of entrepreneurship and the creation of businesses. The interesting part in terms of how the world looks now is it's become, Kaveri, really, really easy to go from you have an idea to build a new business, build a product, build a service, to taking it to all of the world, right? Historically, if you look at it, there's a pattern to it, right? You set up a small shop, you invariably try to get traction in your local town. If it's working really well, you expand to the state. And if it does extraordinarily well, you kind of go national. And very few companies go global.
Right.
That's changed. I think what we are seeing, and that's for me the explosive opportunity for a country like ours, which is young, aspirational, deeply entrepreneurial, is that the whole mechanism of going from an idea to going global has gotten compressed. And we see that there are businesses who are, in month 2, in month 6, deciding to explore global markets. And the nature of our platforms means that it's very easy for them to find customers for their product and services anywhere in the world with very little friction, very little cost. So that's the other role, right? The agenda of fueling entrepreneurship, not just in a local context or in a national context, but really in a global context. And the third one really is, how do we, for a company like ours that's global, where our core mission is to empower people and provide them access to digital tools, how do we play an enabling role in fueling the agenda of inclusion, right? Making sure that more and more people can not just access the internet, but also leverage everything that good that comes with accessing the internet, with a particular focus on women. The reality is there's a huge gender imbalance. It's true globally, but it's true in India as well. 65% of access to the internet is still men, right? And like in all thoughtful economic theories, the reality is that big change happens when women have access to equitable opportunity, and that is true when it comes to realizing the value of the internet. So a lot of our programs are focused on making sure that women find it safe. There's a lot of friction in terms of concerns around, once they're online, are they safe? So that's sort of the first level, right? Making sure that there is safety for their presence on the internet, making sure that we have programs that are focused on particularly fueling female entrepreneurship, and working with other partners to make sure that we are setting a virtuous cycle where more and more groups that are excluded or have not yet benefited from accessing the internet, we essentially think through how we can break that imbalance.
Ajit, that's all very well, but at the end of the day, you still need capital to make these businesses work. And we are in a country where currently there's a huge economic recession, and we all know that there's not enough spending power. So how does one overcome that? While in theory these are wonderful ideas, and of course virtually you can scale up to a certain extent, you cannot go further if you don't have capital investment. So, what do you do with your partners, with governments, to ensure that people actually have access to the tools you need in the real world as well to scale up businesses?
Yeah, I think Kaveri, there are so many questions in there. So let me kind of break it down and address all of the different parts of it. First, Kaveri, it's not theoretical, right? When we have more than 600 million people who have come online in India in a very short period of time, it has happened on the back of capital, a lot of which was deployed by the telcos, but tech companies, others. So this is all very real, right? This change is a big part of the change has already happened.
Right.
I think when
There
you
is access, but not necessarily equity. That's what we want eventually.
I think in 2015, Kaveri, less than 50 million people had access to affordable internet. Today, the number is north of 600. So
Right.
the equity equation has dramatically changed already. So given that I raised the point of equity, Kaveri, it's not to say that that agenda is complete
Yeah.
or it's finished, but I think it's important to recognize the successes that have already come, because in that is inbuilt learnings of what we can continue to do better. And what are the learnings? One, yeah, some of the hard work is already done, because when you have that foundational layer of a lot of people who have access to the internet and a clear shift in behavior from offline to online, including in commerce, including in categories like video, music, education, healthcare, it creates a virtuous cycle that attracts more capital. I think that's the story that we have seen in the last few years. I think any number you look at it, whether it is the investment from the private equity space, the scale of FDI that's coming in, it's all benefited from the fact that that flywheel is well in place. So the fact that people having access, companies disrupting and making big bold bets, trying out new models, trying out new ideas, many of which are working and scaling up, that in turn fuels the cycle of entrepreneurship, because it attracts the next generation of entrepreneurs to be bold and fuel ideas, not just for India but for the world, which attracts more capital. I think we are in the middle of that. So and through all of it, what we are seeing is that it's not just that capital is coming into India and a lot of them doing well. It's also that all of this essentially builds the momentum for more and more people having access to the internet. It reduces the cost of access, right? It reduces the portfolio of services that are open, that in itself become a momentum driver. And a company like ours, I think if I look back at the last few years, of course, you saw us make an investment in geo platforms. One of the reasons why we did it was we saw a company that probably more than any other company in India had done a big needle moving change in terms of expanding access to the internet, which is one of the reasons why we were excited to partner with them. A lot of the work that we do every day, Kaveri, is focused on how do we make sure that the kind of tools that are available for very large businesses. And traditionally, when you look at the media landscape, large businesses have always had an advantage in terms of accessing knowledge and insights and tools that have enabled them to fuel growth more than small businesses.
Right.
What's unique about our model is for any company to use Facebook or Instagram to reach new consumers around the world, the smallest business, the entrepreneurial shop with only 2 employees, has access to the same tools that our largest clients have. And a lot of our energy is focused on making sure not just that those tools are available and companies can come in and use them, but we spend a lot of energy and time and investment in making sure that we take those tools to entrepreneurs and to smaller businesses. A program that we have rolled out in India is called the SMB Guide, which is available in English and Hindi and over time in multiple languages. The idea is, how do you create awareness about the power of the internet and then using platforms like ours to grow businesses to the smallest entrepreneur in the smallest town? And so that's effort. One of the things we have done in the last year, especially given the pandemic and the massive disruption it caused in economies around the world, was we provided financial support, right? We wrote grants for around 3,000 businesses amounting to 32 crores. And again, it's material money, but given the size of India's economy, it's not that large. But the idea was to show up and be helpful wherever we can. And in this case was, let's be helpful to some of those businesses who have been impacted by just giving them a bit of financial support that can help them tide over the disruption that happened when people were not walking into shops on the streets. So I think all of these, Kaveri, go together, right? All of these go together. And we see ourselves as playing a meaningful role in helping build these foundational blocks, these bricks of the India internet that we are building together, which is a part of the global internet. And we see that as an exciting part of our mission.
Let's talk about some of the new tools that you've launched and how do they help small businesses, whether it's Facebook Room or Insta Reels. Do these in any way help the small business?
Yeah, I think, again, at multiple levels.
Yeah.
Answer is yes. I think 2 or 3 things are happening, Kaveri. One is, of course, there's a big shift happening in terms of behaviors, right? And one of that to the top of this conversation is people around the world are getting more and more comfortable with the idea of virtual presence, right? I mean, you and I are doing this over a video call. We're doing it with ease. 2 years ago, we would probably have made an effort to fly into a city and be on a stage together. And yet,
Thank God we don't have to do that anymore.
Exactly. And the quality of this conversation is probably as good as it would have been. Neither of us is exhausted. So maybe the quality of the conversation is even better. But I think it's part of a trend where there is comfort with virtual presence. And a lot of our work is on building tools to fuel that. Live rooms is an example of that. Video calling on WhatsApp is an example of that. So that's an element. And of course, the reality is that in many of these cases, the boundaries between consumer behavior and business behavior is very porous, right?
Yeah.
Businesses will use WhatsApp video calls, just like we may be using WhatsApp video calls for family calls.
Yeah,
that's one. I think the second part of it is that we put in a lot of energy to make sure that we are investing in skilling. We have a program called Boost with Facebook, which again used to be a physical event, which is now done online, where the idea is essentially to create awareness amongst a large number of people who are being introduced into the world of the internet for the first time, how to use digital tools, right? And if I stretch that further, we actually have a program with the CSC Academy, which is a part of the IT ministry, where we've already trained 250,000 women in more than 25,000 villages in 12 states across the country in terms of fueling sort of what we call village level entrepreneurs, right? Which are really, how do we make sure that female entrepreneurs in villages understand the power of the internet to fuel business ideas that they have, to grow their businesses. So a lot of the work is around skilling. And then the third bucket is the entire platform on Facebook and Instagram is really geared towards making it easy for businesses to establish a presence and then leverage the scale of the platform and the global presence of the platform to find new customers for their products and services. And it's, we invest, the point that I was making earlier, Kaveri, every tool is as accessible for a small business as it is for a very large client. And therefore, we invest a lot of time in building those products. But then, especially in India, we're investing a lot of effort and energy in taking those to as wide a community as possible. So the SMB guide is an example. We work with VC and PE firms to help them with their startups. So that's the idea. Can we make sure that we can, given that these tools exist, given that when companies or entrepreneurs use these tools, they find that there is enormous potential to scale their businesses. How do we make sure that the knowledge and wisdom around that is dissipated to as many individuals and entrepreneurs and companies as possible? And that's a lot of the effort that we do every day.
Right. So how do you do that? Do you use your own platform, or do you use other platforms to do that as well?
I think it's whatever clients want, right? So there's no constraint in terms of only using our platform. So a lot of webinars, right, in the last few months, which are open and free. Boost with Facebook is a particular structured program, as I mentioned, which was physical, now done online. The creation of guides like the SMB guide for India and an online resource hub that we have created. And of course, I think just making sure that we are open to conversations. A lot of people write into us, seek help. And when they do that, we try and connect them to people who can actually help them. So I don't think there is any constraint in terms of, the mechanism of employing these tools, right? I think of course, given Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, the reality is like most other companies and businesses find it easy and useful to use us. We find it useful to use us for our own purposes as well. And no surprise, a lot of times it happens to be the easiest and the least friction way to get to large numbers of people. But there's no constraint, right? I think it's whatever works for the other side.
The other two areas where I think we saw a lot of change during the pandemic in the use of all your apps is, of course, education and healthcare. Education in particular, and the opportunities there for India in terms of online learning, in terms of online teaching are tremendous, as it is for healthcare. So are there any things in particular that you're doing in those two areas?
I think the answer to your sort of first question is absolutely. I think your sort of thesis that these are two sectors that are likely to see massive positive transformational change.
I believe
where models come out of India that in many ways solve for the world. We believe that too. I think there's a lot of excitement there. As you know, we kind of made a small investment in a company called Unacademy that is at the forefront of innovation and live classes, for example. So we are big believers that India in many ways will throw out new models that will be relevant for the world. And we're also believers that we can play an enabling role, Kaveri. Just to give you an example, a company called White Hat Junior.
Yeah.
And I think it's a company that amplifies a lot of what I've been talking about, which is, in less than 18 months, they went from zero to a company that was valued at $300 million and bought by Byju's. And a lot of their market expansion it was on Facebook and Instagram. I think Karan, the founder, would say that they started targeting the United States almost at the same time as they started exploring expansion in India, and that kind of gives you a sense of the potential
Yeah.
in sectors like education, right? And I want to call out two or three things for those in the audience who are thinking about this. One, the fact that there are some opportunities where we have depth in expertise, right? In this case, for example, we have massive depth in high quality teachers around the country, right? Whether it's to teach coding or mathematics or English, and in many ways, this is a model where you can find a way to connect the dots between supply, which is essentially great quality teachers who have the ability to create the right learning environments,
Right.
to demand, which is global.
Yeah.
Right. The need to learn something new. It's an unlimited demand globally. And the role of a platform like ours, Kaveri, is you're able to connect the dots between the teachers and a teacher sitting in Coimbatore and a student sitting in Cincinnati can easily happen today. And the companies who are building these models find it easy that they can leverage Facebook and Instagram to figure out who are the right set of parents who are going to be interested. What is the right pricing for it? That is the big opportunity. The fact that it's become easy to access global markets with very little friction, with the economics that are in line with consumers' ability to pay. And for me, what the exciting part of the story is, it taps into India's strengths.
Absolutely.
Right? If we have unlimited human capital, what better role can we play as a company other than to connect that unlimited human capital to a world that will benefit from that capital? So it just gives you the framing in which, again, to the top of the conversation about digital dividend, the framing in which a global platform like ours can play an enabling role in creating entirely new economic virtuous cycles that are good for the world and good for us, good for the country.
What about health? Do we have any examples, as you said, of White Hat Junior or Yoon Academy in health? We've seen a lot of the Anganwadi workers in India, for instance, use tools such as yours to actually become the front line in terms of COVID workers, to help in mental health counseling. A lot of that has happened as well. And some people are talking about exporting that model of community workers as well, aided by technology, for the rest of the world. Do you look at something like that happening as well, which is a very particular Indian model?
Look, I think a great call out, Kaveri, and obviously, I think the biggest part of the health agenda over the last 12 months has been to make sure that people have access to accurate information on COVID.
Yes.
Right.
And mental health. That's the other silent epidemic.
Of course. And right off the bat, I think going back to March or April of last year, one of the work that we had done with multiple state governments and the central government was to create WhatsApp chatbots as well as Messenger, Facebook Messenger chatbots, to make sure that people had accurate information to COVID-related health information. Today, around the world and in India, we're trying to make sure that people have accurate information on vaccines, right? Including making sure that we play a role in limiting vaccine hesitancy. I think it's an important agenda for the globe and for India. So that's been where a lot of our energy is focused. But clearly, anecdotally, we see that obviously there's a lot of, I think the comfort with video calling for doctors has gone up dramatically, right, in the last few months. I think, and I think there are enough models out there, entrepreneurial startups that have created ventures where they're making it easier to get an appointment with the doctor, do a video call, the prescription is within the app. I think some of that innovation will continue. And again, I think the role that we can play is in terms of making sure that we are building tools that allow some of these innovation that may be driven by other companies to leverage the scale that we have, right, and make it easy and reduce the friction as much as possible.
So, Ajit, those are the good parts, and those are the wonderful things about technology, and it makes you so inspired to just hear you talking about all this, because you know that these are opportunities. There are, of course, worries about the dark side as well, in terms of privacy, in terms of the machine knowing you better than you know yourself, in terms of the number of parameters per person that Facebook may have. So a lot of concerns about that. How do you address those, especially in such a politically volatile country such as India?
No, I wouldn't characterize India that way, Kaveri. I think the reality is the countries around the world, I mean, in the context of this conversation, the countries around the world are all asking questions around what does it mean on the internet in terms of the rules around privacy, data usage, content. I think that conversation is global, Kaveri, and two or three things to call out here. One, if I look back at the history of the internet over the last 25 years, just like with any new technology, any disruption in innovation, Kaveri, the first few years are invariably characterized by explosive innovation where societies kind of just understand all of the positive benefits, right? And a lot of big needle moving change happens in a very short period of time. And then invariably, as it happens, the conversation slowly shifts to, okay, this is great, but what about X and what about Y? Like the questions that you're asking. And I think we've reached that stage almost of that, that first stage of at least the current version of the internet between 95 and 2020, where there's increasingly a recognition that as much as it's a force for good, as much as the large number of people disproportionately are connected to the internet and are using the internet for good, right? They're trying to start a business. They're just trying to talk to their, family who's in a different town. There's as it happens with any new technology, as it happens with most things in the world, there will be a minority of actors who may be using it for purposes that are not right? Whether it is speech of a certain kind, hate speech of a certain kind, whether it is spreading content that societies can largely agree that should not be easily accessible. And our principle on all of this, Kaveri, is that we have very clear guidelines in terms of the kind of content that is not allowed on our platforms, right? And those are articulated and we are transparent about it, what we call community standards, right? And that covers a whole bunch of areas like hate speech, speech that calls for violence, speech against women, speech against other protected groups. And we're very clear that between the AI that constantly improves over time, where we are able to, today pick up some of these even before they are distributed, right? And limit them from ever coming onto our platforms and get distribution. And then, a very large number of people, 35,000 people who work on the safety and security agenda in the company, almost all of that which has happened in the last 3 years, we are very clear that it is our responsibility, just like it is the responsibility of other tech platforms, to make sure that we're investing in people and in technology to create a safe and secure environment for users around the world. So that's one part of it. And the second part is, as Mark himself has articulated quite vocally over the last couple of years, privacy is at the top of our agenda. And that fundamentally means, and again, we have seen a big shift in the company over the last 2-3 years. It means that we now today work with a privacy framework that influences the development of every product we make, every feature we change, every policy we create. At the heart of it is whether it meets the standards of privacy that the company has articulated. And making sure, a big part of that, Kaveri, is making sure that users have control over their data, that users are able to have the power to decide what data about them, what is it used, in what context it's used. So both of what you mentioned, the privacy agenda and the safety agenda are huge priorities that rise to the top stack of priorities for the company globally.
Right. So, in almost at the end of our conversation, Ajit, what are the three things during the pandemic that you learned, or the lessons that the company learned, which you think going forward will impact on how you function?
Yeah, I think one, we've talked a lot about it, Kaveri, that um, uh, consumers and businesses have a lot more comfort with virtual presence than we would have ever imagined a year ago. And that's a big shift. And even as the world comes back and we'll all probably spend more time in rooms together, we do believe that virtual presence will be leveraged a lot more than we were doing in the past. And that's one of the reasons why we are investing materially in AR and VR. We see that as the next big computing platform for the next generation. I think the second one is that there's clearly a shift from offline to online.
Right.
Whether it's consumers and businesses, we are seeing that more and more of the time spent, more and more of what you sell, all of that is moving online, right? And that kind of, to the conversation that we had, it means that all of us need to make sure that we upskill and understand the shift and find ways to leverage it, because that's how the world is going to live. And lastly, I think this is an interesting one, is in with all of the change, we will discover whether a new music or a new brand or a new category, the ways in which we discover new things is also going to change. And a lot of that is going to be online. It may be purposeful, it may be through serendipity, but if you look at how economics has been organized, and especially marketing and advertising, a lot of that assumes how people discover new things based on how we have lived for the last 100 years. And I think in the last 12 months, that changed. And I think everyone will have to gear towards the new ways in which people around the world will discover new things.
So, which is the one app that you use most, Ajit, of all the apps that your company has?
Between the three, it's actually all three, but I think it's still WhatsApp. I think just given the kind of connectedness we have all with families and friends on WhatsApp, quite a bit of Facebook, and increasingly in the last 6 months, a lot of Instagram as well.
Because you hear so much about younger people preferring Instagram to Facebook. Is that true in terms of numbers?
I think when we look at the numbers, what we're seeing is that young people are on both Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
Instagram probably skews a bit younger, but if you look at the growth, and some of these numbers have been made public, you will know that in a country that is as young as ours, these numbers happen only when young people are on both Facebook and Instagram. What is true, Kaveri, is Facebook is still a lot about connecting friends and families, but Instagram, because of its design, in terms of how it's built, it's definitely where people spend more time to pursue interests, discover brands, right? Followership around big passionate areas happens on Instagram a lot, whereas friends and family, and the connectedness between friends and family is still the center, the heart of the center of gravity for Facebook app.
But what are people using more for business? I'm curious about that.
Both of them, right? I think, and it's a big one. And when a business comes and uses Facebook, it's today almost by default they get to leverage Instagram as well.
Okay.
So an ad on Facebook is actually also an ad on Instagram.
Right.
So it is so seamless that from a business point of view, it is wherever the consumers who have interest in that category or for their particular brand are engaging. But it's both fairly seamlessly.
So are you at the end of the day a media company, a business company, a social media company? What is Facebook? Or just a transnational giant which sort of controls our lives?
No, not a giant. I think, we don't spend a lot of time, Kaveri, giving ourselves a label, right, internally. I think a lot of our time is actually spent on saying, hey, we have this amazing generational opportunity to drive big change in the world, including in India. We have the ability to create new products and tools. Let's go out there and do it. And hopefully societies and people like you and people in general see the value, see that we can be a big force for good. That's where a lot of our energy is focused on, Kaveri.
Yeah, and I think the pandemic has really brought that home to a lot of people that, the internet is a force for good. And I think the conspiracy theories have sort of died down a little, but of course they will always be there. So at the end of the day, what's it like working for Mark Zuckerberg?
I think a lot of the, for a company where the founder is still the CEO,
Yeah.
no surprise, Kaveri, that a lot of the energy of the company, how we move fast, the innovation that you see across our family of apps, I think obviously benefit from the fact that we have a leader who's extremely clear about his mission and the mission of his company. And I think it shows up every day.
Thank you so much, Ajit Mohan, for sharing your vision with us. It's very exciting, very inspiring. And I think young people especially have to learn more and more how to use it for good, and maybe not just as we think of it as a black hole of time, which sort of just consumes you and doesn't benefit you in any way. I think that's the one thing that we can take away from here, apart from any others. Thank you very much, Ajit Mohan, for spending this time with us.
Thank you, Kaveri.
Hope you enjoyed that session. If you want to catch the other sessions, you can log on to eventexpress.com, newindianexpress.com, or even edxlive.com. If you are more of a social media person, you can also join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you for watching.